The rain pounded harder than ever, each drop sizzling as it struck Mara's makeshift armor. The research facility's notes had prepared her for the dangers, but nothing could prepare her for the reality of stepping into the eye of the storm. Her destination was a military-grade drone tower buried deep within the city, a relic of a bygone era repurposed to house the bioweapons kill switch. The storm seemed alive, its crimson tendrils reaching for her like claws. Every step forward felt like an impossible gamble. The streets were unnervingly quiet. The creatures, those grotesque amalgamations of flesh and bone, were rarely silent. Mara knew better than to trust the stillness. It was the calm before the inevitable ambush. She turned a corner and froze. In the middle of the street stood one of the largest monstrosities she'd ever seen, a fused mass of infected, easily 20 feet tall, its many arms dragging along the ground. Eyes blinked across its torso, scanning, seeking, and then it screamed, a high-pitched wail that echoed through the ruins, summoning others. Mara darted into a nearby building as the streets came alive with shambling figures. They moved faster now, more coordinated, as if sharing a hive mind. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She could hear their footsteps pounding against the pavement, closing in on her location. Inside the building, she found herself in what used to be a hospital. The scent of decay was overwhelming, and the halls were littered with rusted gurneys and skeletal remains. She tightened her grip on the crowbar and pressed forward, her eyes darting to every shadow. Suddenly a movement. A childlike figure emerged from a side room, its face half melted but its eyes eerily human. It reached out, and for a fleeting moment Mara hesitated. Then the thing lunged, its jaw splitting unnaturally wide to reveal rows of jagged teeth. Mara swung the crowbar with all her strength, shattering the creature's skull. Its body crumpled, but the noise had given her away. The walls seemed to shake as the infected converged on the building. She had no choice but to run. Bursting out a side door, she found herself in an alley. Ahead, the drone tower loomed, its spire barely visible through the crimson haze. The sight filled her with a desperate resolve. She wasn't far now, but the rain wasn't her only enemy. The creatures had learned to track her, their grotesque forms spilling out of windows and alleyways. They crawled, sprinted, and sometimes leaped, their malformed bodies defying logic. One lunge from above, its fused arms forming a massive blade. Mara barely dodged, the creature slicing into the concrete beside her. She reached the base of the drone tower, slamming the door shut behind her. The building vibrated as the infected slammed against it, their guttural growls and hisses growing louder. She didn't have long. Inside, the tower was a labyrinth of rusted stairwells and malfunctioning security systems. The kill switch was at the top. Each step felt like an eternity, her muscles screaming in protest. The rain seeped through cracks in the walls, burning her exposed skin. Finally, she reached the control room. The console flickered weakly, coated in dust and dried blood. She punched in the code from the research notes, her fingers trembling. The screen lit up, asking for a final confirmation. But the storm wasn't going to let her succeed without a fight. The building shook violently as the largest monstrosity yet, a fused amalgamation of dozens, if not hundreds, of infected, began clawing its way up the tower. Mara's heart raced. She slammed her hand on the confirmation button just as the creature tore through the wall, its many mouths letting out a deafening roar. The kill switch activated, releasing a pulse of electromagnetic energy. The rain stopped mid-air and the infected froze, their grotesque bodies twitching as the nanites were destroyed. The monstrosity let out a final guttural screech before collapsing into a heap of lifeless flesh. Mara sank to her knees, gasping for air. The world outside was eerily silent. She had done it, but as she looked at the console, a flashing warning caught her eye. The kill switch was temporary, the storm would return, and it would be stronger. Mara clenched her fists. The fight wasn't over, but for now she had bought humanity a chance to regroup, to resist, and to prepare for the next wave of the blood rain.